Look, we're not here to talk about what you say. We're not even really here to talk about how you say it in the traditional sense. We're going deeper. We're here to decode the actual physics of the human voice and its unbreakable link to the authority people grant you.
And that, right there, that's the signal. It's a fundamental truth that kind of flies in the face of what we all believe about communication. Before your logic is ever considered, before your argument is weighed, a judgment has already been made based on the pure physics of how you sound.
So why does this happen? Well, it's because our brains are fundamentally wired for survival, not for a detailed, logical analysis of an argument. We all have this ancient subconscious system that's constantly scanning for vocal cues, assessing status, assessing safety, long before our conscious mind ever gets around to processing the meaning of the words. It's a primal filter, and it's always on.
And there's a science to this, of course. It's called paralinguistics. It's the study of that hidden channel of communication, that whole other layer of information that's being broadcast by the sound of your voice alone. So this isn't about your word choice, it's about the raw data your voice is transmitting about what's going on inside you.
And this quote just nails the core problem, doesn't it? You can choose your words so carefully. You can craft the absolute perfect message. But your voice is an unfiltered signal. It's a direct readout from your nervous system, and it will give away any internal pressure long before your words can build a convincing mask.
You see, our subconscious brain doesn't really do nuance. When it hears a voice, it sorts that signal into a really simple primal binary. A voice either signals stability and control, or it signals stress and vulnerability. There's not a lot of middle ground there.
Okay, now let's break this down, because what's really interesting is how these physical states translate directly into social perception. Over on the left, you've got resonance, that low, steady pitch. That's literally the byproduct of a calm, regulated nervous system. And listeners, without even thinking about it, interpret that sound as groundedness, as emotional stability. Then on the right, you have tension. When we get stressed, our throat muscles constrict. It's involuntary, and that thins out the voice, it raises the pitch. It's a direct audio leak of internal pressure, and it signals vulnerability to everyone who hears.
So, here's the crucial point, the main takeaway. Listeners make a direct, unconscious leap from the sound of your voice to their assessment of your competence. A steady, resonant voice doesn't just sound nice, it is perceived as the sound of someone who is in control of themselves and, by extension, of the entire situation.
And make no mistake, this isn't just some interesting theory. This vocal dynamic is out there constantly reshaping social hierarchies in real time. In any high-stakes environment you can think of, sound is what assigns status, long before a single substantive point is ever made. This is the game.
Just think about it for a second. In a boardroom, the leader with that calm, resonant voice is seen as steady under pressure. In a tough negotiation, the person whose voice stays low and controlled is the one who sets the emotional temperature for the entire room. In a courtroom, a lawyer's strained voice can create doubt about their own case, while on a stage, a grounded voice just commands attention. It's the sound, not just the logic, that tells everyone who's really in control.
And this isn't an impression that builds over time, that's the crazy part. We're talking about the first impression, that initial assignment of authority, of credibility, of status. It's granted based on these primal vocal cues, often within the first few seconds of you opening your mouth.
So, what's the cost of ignoring this channel? Well, you end up creating what's called a credibility gap, this really dangerous disconnect between the words you're saying and the signals your voice is sending.
Let's just ask that question directly. You're trying to deliver a confident message, but your voice is thin and it's tight and it's a little high-pitched. Who is a listener going to believe? Your carefully chosen words or the undeniable physical signal of your voice?
The answer is always the same. The listener trusts the sound, every time. That nonverbal, involuntary signal is always perceived as being more honest than the words you chose to say. When there's a conflict between the two, the sound wins. And your message? Well, it gets completely nullified. And the cost of that is huge. You find yourself getting ignored because your vocal delivery is signaling that you don't even believe your own message. You lose influence because you can't project the stability that people need to see to follow you. You end up talking and talking, throwing data and logic at people, but you never actually move them because the underlying signal you're sending is one of weakness.
So this brings us to the edge. How do the most effective communicators think about this? Well, here's a hint. They don't try to fake a deep voice. They're not doing vocal exercises in the mirror to sound more authoritative. They see the voice for exactly what it is, an output, and they focus all their energy on managing the input.
Their mindset really comes down to 3 steps. First is awareness. They see their voice not as a tool for persuasion, but as a biofeedback monitor for their own internal state. Second is regulation. Because they have that awareness, they focus their energy where it matters, on managing their internal state. Their stress, their breathing, their composure. They know if they regulate the system, a calm, resonant voice is the natural result. They fix the source, not the symptom. And third, consistency. They get that their default vocal pattern, the one they use day in and day out, becomes their identity in the minds of others.
I mean, really consider the implications of that. Your habitual vocal tone is a constant instruction to the world on how to perceive you, how much weight to give your words, and what level of status they should assign to you. A consistently tense voice teaches people to dismiss you. A consistently resonant voice teaches people to listen.
All right, so let's turn this analysis back to you. The goal here isn't to change your voice, but to become aware of the signals you're constantly and often unconsciously broadcasting. So here are 3 questions for you to think about.
First, just think about your default patterns. Is your voice habitually tense? Do you tend to speak from your throat or more from your chest? These habits aren't neutral. They are actively shaping your perceived identity every single time you speak.
Second question, think about those high-stakes moments. When the pressure's really on, what signal does your voice send out? Does it get thin and strained and completely undermine your words, or does it stay grounded, amplifying your message of stability? Because that signal is what people are truly responding to.
And finally, let's ask a strategic question. Remember, communication is a game of gains and losses. In which meetings, in which negotiations or conversations does the sound of your voice automatically grant you status? And maybe more importantly, where is it costing you influence, credibility, and control before you've even had a chance to make your argument?